On occasion, I'd like to talk about technology in general, and today is that day. Now, you may have seen on news that there's been an announcement of new Windows laptops running on ARM CPU. And the question on your mind possibly is, what is the big deal? Why do people want this ARM CPU? Why is it different? And do I even care? So today, let's talk about that. And I did talk about technology of x86 versus ARM CPU on the previous video, and that got criticized heavily because I was wrong, and all I was just saying, I was just trying to explain the concept of CPUs working differently. That was all. I wasn't actually explaining technical details of working of the CPU. So that doesn't matter. But what I want to talk about is why is that people want to go to this ARM architecture? What is special about it? And why we don't want to stay with x86. And in order to understand that, we need to talk about Internet Explorer. Yes, that old web browser that no one uses anymore, and that was part of all the jokes on the internet. Well, not so much anymore. But the thing about Internet Explorer is it was known for its backwards compatibility. It would support old web technologies. And there are a lot of companies that would rely on these old technologies to run different applications in the browser. So whenever programmers would create any new features in Internet Explorer, they had to make sure that they don't break anything old, and they had to test it. And at some point it became so difficult to add anything new because the testing, and it would just be breaking the old stuff, it just became impossible to maintain. Thank you. And this is where engineers at Microsoft decided to start from scratch. They said, you know what? We're going to dump all the old tech. We're going to stop worrying about that. We're going to figure out what are people using right now on the internet. What are the current technologies? Let's build those in. Let's optimize for those. And let's move forward. This is where Edge was born. It's a browser that uses all the modern technology. And because of that, it's actually really good. An idea of ARM CPU follows kind of the same idea. The x86 architecture is just filled with all kinds of extensions and old code and all kinds of stuff. And ARM is kind of this new thing where we say, okay, we're going to dump all this old stuff and we're going to move on to this nice, clean, new, understandable architecture so we could move forward with it. Now, it's not as accurate, but you can think of it that way. x86 is just cluttered with all kinds of stuff. It's not very power efficient, and it's just old. And that's why we have this big push to sort of dump the x86 and move with a new architecture that would be way more power efficient and just better overall. Now, one really important thing to understand about current ARM CPUs is they're not necessarily faster than Intel CPUs. In fact, Intel CPUs are faster than current ARM chips. The difference is efficiency, how much power they use versus how much performance they deliver. So if you take like the fastest Intel chip and say, okay, the power requirements, we can put as much power as we want and we have all the cooling we want, the Intel chips will destroy all the ARM and M series chips and all that. Where the ARM chips, great, they're very, very efficient at a certain amount of power input, which is what we really want because a lot of people use laptops and we have restrictions on how much power we can give to the CPU and how much cooling we provide. If that wasn't an option, sure, go with the latest i9 from Intel and you're going to get probably better experience. But because we want to be very efficient, that's where the ARM architecture comes in. The other thing, when you're looking at different benchmarks they're showing and comparing Snapdragon, X Elite, whatever, to Apple's chips, they're comparing to the base level Apple chip, the one that's like in the iPad or MacBook Air. They're not comparing it to like the Pro version on the Max or the Ultra. So be very careful with that. And do not buy anything until these laptops come out and they have benchmarks and compatibility results and all that. Wait for YouTubers to do all the testing before you actually say that it is good. All this initial marketing hype is, a lot of it is hype. But at the moment of making of this video, there is a lot of promise, and that is why I'm making this video. So there you go. That's my simplification of the difference between x86 and ARM and why everybody wants to jump on the ARM bandwagon and have their laptop with that CPU. It is more power efficient, and it's gonna give you good results, hopefully. Anyway, thank you for checking out this video. Don't forget to follow on LinkedIn, subscribe on YouTube, and I will see you on another.